do you think people have a legitimate concerns about the possibility of the failures of being intentional, the failures by the Secret Service? Uh, because there was a lot of things that went wrong last Saturday. Even novice would say that they would never make mistakes that the Secret Service did last week. Let's get that out there. What do you guys think about it? Let's go ahead and start with you, Master Sergeant Lewis.
You know, when you have those type of events, there's always a format of this is what we're doing, this is what we're protecting, this is a line of sight. I think the communication was the key thing here, where you can't say, well, the local police are the ones going to be working the outside, boundaries or what. I mean, it entails there was a lack of security, yes. The the decision making of why wait, if you see something, just hey, put it out there, take it, do what needs to be done to stop that. And those are the things that even now here in Texas, where I live close to Uvalde, are one of the main things that when you have something like that going down with at a school or all these places, if the security process is not done correctly or follow procedures, then we got a problem.
Chief?
Yeah, he's definitely right on that. One thing I will say is that when you have two different agencies, everyone is focused on the Secret Service, but don't forget you got the police department, which is right there, and they should have a channel for communications. From what I understand, a civilian saw the guy trying to get onto the roof first,
Yeah.
and I don't know what their communication protocol is between the Secret Service and the police department, but that would have been a critical thing. And if there was a police officer that was there, and what I've heard is that there was a police officer that climbed up to the roof, and then the young man turned his weapon on him, and then the police officer jumped down because he was at a disadvantage. I don't know the channels of communication that those guys had, between that police department and the Secret Service. I have no idea, but that's one of the key parts. And that's with anything, when you have communication, trusted form of communication, that whereas you can inform one entity that this is happening on this end to another entity, it would have greatly reduced that. And I think maybe that could have prevent the guy from taking shots. But just like in the military, we cannot, you know, check all the boxes. Maybe I can put that, or nothing we have is foolproof. We just do the best we can. So since I don't know what the Secret Service and how they communicated, I I don't know who's at fault. I don't even put blame on them because I'm not in that situation and I just don't know.
Don't you have somebody walking around the whole scene? Like, I mean, wouldn't you think that if somebody has a shot at 160 yards, I mean, we're talking about a sniper can get you even at 1,000 yards or more. How could that happen? I mean, it's really we are supposed to be the best military, the best force in the world. It's just mind-boggling to me. I want to share a short video with you. First, I have to get it from Kim Arvinson because she had the I couldn't find the actual video myself. I don't know if they took it down or anything like that. But let me.
This shot, let's look at this shot. This is from a TikTok video of the closeness of how close this shot is to Trump's head, and how it nearly did actually hit his head. I mean, look at this. If had he not moved his head at that very moment, he'd be dead. This was a headshot. Now, how does somebody, and the only thing that saved him, this is a headshot. The only thing that saved Trump from the headshot was Trump happening to move at that very moment to avoid being shot right in the head.
So it's like an echo from a lot of experts. I've been seeing a lot of videos from military experts, special forces, snipers, and they kind of leading to the same thing. Let's go ahead and listen to this.
Basically calls him a conspiracy theorist, but let's go ahead and watch this.
I look at all of these things and I look at different videos where an assailant will pull a firearm on a law enforcement officer, and the first thing they do is they immediately pull and draw and mitigate the threat and the risk. I ask why the local law enforcement officer did not do so. The other thing is that when you set up an advance team, I keep hearing this about the perimeter elements.
Yeah.
The perimeter is actually established by your threats that are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards, perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch. That's a sniper's paradise. And we talk about Eagle's Nest. You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground for sure, but also a failure in advance.
I think it's a failure in advance. I think it's a failure to have the counter snipers to be able to establish their range fin and their sketch maps.
I also heard we've also learned that local snipers were stationed inside that building. At the time.
I haven't heard that piece of it yet, but that doesn't necessarily make sense unless they were actually in a window which was backed off, because a lot of times you'll get yourself in there. Sometimes you expose your rifle in a way to try and do a force protection or a show of force that actually stops things. Others are actually more tactical where they'll sit back a little bit, but a sniper for the law enforcement is only trained to shoot about 75 yards, unlike your counter sniper teams that are on set. But here's my problem. In having done this for so long, they always say the adage of ignorance is bliss, and I think that's true. I've done thousands of advances. I've done thousands of counter sniper operations with our teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. The amount of negligence, the amount of mistakes that was made here, I have a very difficult time not leaning myself towards this was intentional as opposed to fecklessness.
But wait, talk to me about that. I actually heard you say this right the day after, which I wanted to ask you about. What do you mean intentional?
I
mean an intentional failure on the part of...
No, I wouldn't say an intentional failure on the part of, but I got to just, I sit here and I scratch my head. You don't want to be the conspiracist. You don't want to be the person.
I'm telling you, because that's what it's leaning towards.
No, I know. And that's the issue, is that you walk this fine balance of, you're not trying to be a conspiracist, but you look at it and you go, how could this have gone so...
But it's one thing if someone on the street says it. It's another. You, Corn Mills, member of Congress, former sniper, you saying it, it makes my eyebrows go up. When you say you're walking the line on this, intentional what?
It almost seems to me, and I think that an investigation is necessary at this point within Congress, not just the FBI, not just others. I look back at it and I'm thinking, all right, for an individual, if you looked at the escalations and how they are trying to approach him, let's just say that it was like, okay, first we want to censor and silence you, then we want to indict and imprison you. Now we're attempting to kill you and take you off the stage.
Let's slow down.
Please.
I'm hearing two things from you. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but I'm also hearing you jumping ahead of things.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at all the different possible capabilities. One of the things as a military member, one of the things as a person who's run in the special operations communities before, one of the people who's actually done this is that you look at all potential analysis, right?
Donald Trump and his team have said,
No, I agree.
Dial it back. Do not blame this on Joe Biden.
Oh, well, actually, I didn't say Joe Biden, to be completely
Who's the
clear
they then? Let's be very specific.
Well, that's what the investigation has to do. Was it local law enforcement that had made the mistakes, or was there something to it? Was there other types of things?
Leave it at that. Bring you guys back. We don't have to go through the whole video, but he say a lot of stuff there that would scare people. I actually have to say that sometimes we mess up really bad, and it doesn't have to be intentional, because maybe going back to 2021. Afghanistan, how we exit out of Afghanistan. I hear a lot of regular soldiers, a lot of military people saying that was one of the saddest days of their life. And yet that was very harmful to President Biden and the administration. So I don't think they wanted to come out looking that bad. And yet it happened. So things does happen, like what you were saying, Chief Warren, Officer Armstrong. Anything else to add after the video?
No, because their field of expertise, which is being a sniper, he's done counter sniper missions and everything else. I know the capabilities of a sniper, but I really can't say. I don't have a fight, and I don't have anything to say about that, because I really don't know. I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay, Luis.
Well, it all, like the chief's saying, this boils down to the SME, subject matter experts, and the thing about what they're talking in this video is what happens anytime a situation like this happens. It automatically becomes a conspiracy. Well, somebody's got their hands in this. How are we going to prove, right? Because you got to have
Mhm.
that. You got to make sure you got that. Finding out exactly the points, because I know, looking through all this videos and all the different stations and social media, that there was enough time from when the people on the ground saw that guy up in the building, and even the cop going up there trying to look over, that from that time to even the snipers up in the top were already pointing their weapon down range, to that, and yet the president was still talking there. I think the minute they saw that gunman out there, that should have just shut down the whole thing, automatically. And there was like a gap in there. They kept it going. So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
there's a communication gap from the local or whatever. But again, that needs to be investigated. It needs to be brought out. And I think somebody, like always, somebody's going to be a goat on this.
Right, right.
But again, I'm not a subject matter expert in that area. I'm just saying, like you said, I'm just a veteran here looking at this, because you know what, when we did leave Afghanistan, and my battle, all my friends that were with me and everything, I know it, to me, it brought anxiety for the fact that the things that we were doing out there, and because we were logistics, we were doing a lot of good for the people of Afghanistan, the women, the kids. There was infrastructure. There was a lot of good things that were happening for them. I mean, it was just the way things were going then. When the way he pulled out, it definitely, it should have been another way. To have moved these soldiers out, the American people that they left behind, equipment that got left behind. I mean, that was just, to me, uncalled for.
It was
In
almost
my opinion and my view.
it was almost worse than Vietnam.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I was assigned for the Enduring Desert Storm, to the 22nd SUBCOM, which is one of the supply commands. And when we were there, the motto was that we're not leaving any equipment behind. We're going to
Right.
bring back everything that we had in the desert, and we brought all that back, and we moved some to Kuwait, Doha, and so we were prepared. But again, that's the logistics of doing things the right way. And when we left there, we left of millions and dollars of equipment, that all for not, to be taken over by the Taliban.
If not billions. And that
That's,
the part about this that bothers me is that this makes this makes the U.S. look weak, and it has consequences. And then this is another thing that happened. I mean, this makes us look bad. What happens Saturday, it doesn't matter what side you're on. If it happened to Biden or if it happened to Trump, this makes us look bad in the eyes of the enemies, and it looks us look weak, I think. And I have that concern, like what you were saying, Luis, that the people saw the threat before. Well, I take that back, because now they're saying that they actually knew about half an hour to an hour before that that person was a threat, and then they lost them. So
mm,
that's probably even worse, because then we had even more time. But it's really bad when you actually have the civilians detect the threat before the Secret Service or before the snipers. That leaves a lot to say. So, and the Afghanistan thing, that's a whole different subject. That could be a whole video on its own. I know a lot of
Hmm.
people were very frustrated with that, and I'm pretty sure you, as veterans, wish that that never happened.